Haidong. In this video, we're going to talk about high-level concept number 2. Honestly, this is like 1.2 or 1.5, whatever it's going to be. So it's very much a continuation of the previous one. So we're going to be talking about pressure. And I want to talk about pressure specifically with regard to the draw. So let's actually go right into it. Again, asterisks, right? I'm not claiming to be a high-level person, right? But these are ideas a high-level person would instantiate. So I'm still working on it, so hopefully this is making sense. So I mentioned in the previous video, we're just going to do this with regard to specifically the draw, right? We talked about like having the general idea of a pressure, right? So what I'm going to do first actually is discuss, again, asterisks, it's going to sound crazy, play with it, ways you can visualize or feel pressure, right? So again, this will make me sound crazy, I'll go with it. So some people kind of talk about pressure being like smoke. Some people kind of talk about almost like wafting like pulses or something like that. For me, I usually kind of feel it more like a low intensity fire, right? Maybe a little bit with smokiness, right? But at least when I'm thinking about intentionality and how I'm trying to, pressure when it coats my sword, for example, I usually feel it as more of a fire quality as opposed to smoke. However, pretty much every single practitioner visualizes and feels it in very different ways, although the end result is the same, right? When you feel pressure coming towards you, you know like pressure is being applied, right? Whether or not you think of it as like an aura, if you think of it more as like smoky kind of pressure or like something that's sloughing off, everyone also gives off different pressures, but that's a whole different idea. So just keep that in mind, right? So when I talk about that kind of idea, keep that in mind. So as we're drawing, right? So we already talked about the idea of, again, feeling that you're kind of like bowled over slightly with your sword, right? Now this is again a very high intensity kind of draw. Now obviously if you're kind of like more casual, right? In the sense that I'm just chilling here with my sword, right? As you do, and someone's trying to be sassy and murder me, like I don't want to be like, right? However, this is how I find it a little bit easier to instantiate. So we've talked about, again, the daijang, right? So again, I'm just going to use the word, where you kind of feel your energy center, right? So for me, when I kind of visualize it almost like a golden orb, right? I'm kind of here, right? Now it's not in my body per se, it's kind of like resting, like kind of like in front of your navel for me. So when I'm thinking about that, is so when I'm kind of getting ready to draw, kind of shifts into the sword. Again, oogie boogie, if you don't like it, I guess don't keep watching. But this is what I want you to think about. So if you want to just like do some basic meditation, just think about it, feel like this is kind of like the center, like the well, right? As I bring it forward, almost like you're dipping or like pouring the energy into your sword, right? As I'm here, so think almost like, I made this analogy with my student today. Think more like you're pulling cheese as opposed to breaking bread. This hopefully will make sense, right? So the idea here is I'm not trying to, right? The idea is I'm here, this is where the energy's like being settled, equal and opposite, right? So again, you're drawing it out, right? So from here, draw forward. Again, feel like, again, the energy here, draw forward, pinky ring middle, as you can almost like flick the energy forward. And as you kind of put the sword away, it's going to be the same idea, right? So it's here, it's almost like you're going to bring it back in and gather it in, almost like sealing it away. And when it's closed, you let it drop. Now, I did mention like in break bread versus pulling cheese. So this is something that I saw a little bit from my student. And like having the scabbard out a little bit, he was drawing more here, right? Or more aggressively here. You can already hear the scraping on the sword. My sword's going to be very mad at me. And then go into defense. So one thing I wanted to keep in mind, this is in the same vein as the idea of energy as you draw, is, I believe this is, I don't know who to attribute this to except that they were a Japanese swordsman. The idea is the scabbard is the place of peace, right? When the sword is drawn, it has a singular purpose, right? Well, obviously to defend me, hopefully, but also like to cut, to stab. It is a weapon. And when it's back in the scabbard, it's its place of peace. So when, that felt weird, but that's right. So when you draw, right, just like you in the morning, right, you don't want to be like kicked awake, so you don't want to be like, ha-ha, and draw. No, right? Because you'd be very grouchy and you might backfire. In fact, your scabbard might backfire. Versus the idea here is, again, I want to draw the sword away from its place of peace. I want to coax it out as opposed to jerk it out. Hopefully that makes sense. So if I'm here, again, breaking the seal, here, again, feel the energy kind of pulling in. As I'm here, draw it out, right? So I'm not jerking, I'm not pulling, I'm drawing it out this way here. So if I'm here, draw it, here. And same thing. As I'm putting it back into its place of peace, again, gentle, gentle, and put away. Hopefully that's making sense. Now if you want to be merely practical, right, so like cut away the oogie boogie, if you do it this way, you have a smoother draw, which will not damage your scabbard nearly as much. It won't dull the edge of the blade as much. So this has like utilitarian ideas as well. I just find a way of instancing pressure to be a little more useful in the sense of, again, doing the thing, right? So hopefully that is making sense. I want to keep these videos relatively short, and I know these are weird concepts to play with. I might do, again, one or two more things on pressure in a vaguely immediate time. But for now, hopefully this is enough for you just to play with the idea, and again, settle with it, sit with it, meditate with it, and ultimately, hopefully, feel it. So I guess with that, make sure you stay safe, stay humble, and keep training. Haidong.